All right, we're live. Just spent a while this morning fucking with trying to get OBS to work with my channel points again. Still have not resolved issues that I have since I moved to OBS 28, and it's screwed with my streamer bots. I'm going to have to do more research to make it work. So if anybody does the channel points, I'll hit the button on the stream deck and make it work that way. It'll just be a delay. Oh my God. I love when shit like this happens. I don't want to go back to Leorin board. I mean, it worked, but I really don't like it. So I have about an hour. We'll go ahead and get what we can done on our map. My guess is with all the candles we have to drop and the lighting changes that it probably will just be doing that. And if we get lucky, we'll get the 2 pit traps set. So we'll see. I'm trying to get some stuff up here so I can see everything. Let's go ahead and do this thing. I did finally get this to work where I can hit a button and move to my scenes. Fuck is this? Oh, that's probably stuff coming over here I didn't want to come over. So let's go ahead and open our map up. Then we'll open our assets. Start dropping these things in. Let's see how it works. File, open recent. I just want the assets for Vanrakdoom. All right. Let's see. That's our black candle with the purple light. We're going to use the same one for all of them. I don't really care. I know that's a horrible attitude, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and copy that. Now we need to get off of this stone shelf layer. I tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to create a folder inside this folder. We're going to drop all these candles and then we'll it's area 12, I think. Yeah. And we'll be able to tell which area is area 12 once we get in here. But yeah. See, every one of these little things here is going to have a candle on it. It's going to take a while. So let's get started. Nothing more exciting than copying and pasting the exact same thing over and over again. Let's deselect that. Let's go ahead and paste our candle, transform it. Probably still a little big. Yeah, definitely. Definitely a little big. Let's zoom in here and see what we have. We'll take it down just a little bit more. We're going to make these things small, small. There we go. Oh, there we go. As long as it's not trying to snap us, we're good. Normally, I'd be worried about this being so similar, but I'm not going to worry about it. We can't worry about it. It would be silly to make multiple versions of this candle for something. If we're being honest, we'll be lucky if the players even notice that it's there. We're going to have a bajillion candles here. I think we still have snap turned off, so that's why this stuff's not jumping and acting stupid like it does. Snap's good for a lot of stuff, but you know, not necessarily for placement of little stuff like this where you really don't care that it's symmetrical and all that good stuff all over the place. You know, for stuff like this, I just don't care. We just need these things here. Since we made the decision, I mean, the description actually says, you know, they're niches, not little shelves sticking out. But anybody that watches me do this, they know I really like to have stuff on the map that gives an indication of and allows the players to see what you're describing. So, yes, these are not niches. They're little shelves. But you know what? That's what we're doing. And we're doing it because we can. Now, let's face it, the other thing you can do on a map like this is, especially if you're using something like Foundry, it gives you the option to create colored light and stuff inside of the virtual tabletop. Then you can just create like purple light centered on spots along the wall. But kind of decided with this map that some of that stuff where, you know, they kind of give what I would consider a relatively poor description. That I really want the stuff to actually be there. You know, and for me, it comes down to it's a design choice. You want to have it so that it's just niches in there and you light it with some purple light that because it's really dim light. And I don't think you're going to want to have this stuff seriously overlapping, especially in a virtual tabletop, because sometimes that light, even if you set it down really dim, can become overwhelming as it overlaps. And that's not how I plan to draw the light sources. Because we're going to draw the light sources on here too. I tell you what, I know we're kind of slow on the creation front now. I've kind of decided to do more than just sit around and draw maps all day long, which is probably a good thing. You know, we were mapping super heavily during like all the COVID shutdowns. We couldn't really do anything. And now, you know, I'm still doing my maps, but trying to get out and do other stuff. Be active once again. You know what? That's not a bad thing. This is definitely going quicker than I thought it would. And most of the reason for that is, you know, I keep going back and forth. There are things that I miss in Clip Studio, and there are things that I really prefer in Photoshop. In Clip Studio, it's almost impossible to go in and just random grab one of these items like I can do here and copy it. You know, I have to be on the layer. There's all kinds of stupid stuff unless there's some kind of shortcut that I don't know about that allows me to go in and grab what I want instead of, you know, whatever the freaking layer is that's selected. And that was something when I flipped over, you know, when you're trying to do stuff like this and duplicate, it really makes life difficult if you're stuck having to pick off of like a layer. I mean, every one of these that we put down, if you look, we're at what, number 118? It'd be a bitch to go through these layers and try to figure it out. And we're going to turn all of these candles into a single layer once we have them all placed. And we did look and see, you know, in here, you know, the significance of this hallway. There are a couple of traps or pits, traps and pits, I should say. Is there should be random groups of vampire spawn attacking the players as they're going through these hallways. Which, you know, when they get here, I think they'll be level 15. I'll be honest with you, I'm underwhelmed with the monsters they are throwing at the party at this level. This is, I want to, so first, how are you doing, Groka? I've done this map. This will be the third time. You know, I really hate the black and white maps with nothing on them. And because I play heavily on virtual tabletops using Foundry, I like to have a map that doesn't suck. So I had originally done this map using Dungeon Draft. I think for this map, this is the second iteration of the map, and I've just and what I decided was I didn't want to use somebody else's assets. So every asset that's going on my maps is stuff that we've made, from our Shar statue to a dead cultist that's been bitten, eaten by vampires, to all this other crap that we're making as we go along. Um, I want to have a map that's mine. You know what I mean? And actually, I'm going to distribute this for free. I wouldn't, I wouldn't include this map on Patreon as a Patreon thing because then you're touching on intellectual property. So I'll give this away once it's done. But I'll be using this in like 3 weeks with my group, and yeah, I mean, I really don't like those black and white maps. So I'm doing it so that everything that's on here. Here's the issue that I've had when I've done the maps. You know, you'll go in and there'll be a description of like some weird statue or whatever inside of Mad Mage, and they don't exist. And unless you're willing to sit down and create that statue, then you have to just. What I would do, which I really didn't like doing, I would just put a statue base on the floor and then, as I always said to people, use your words, describe what's sitting on that statue base. Now I just go in. If, like, there was a statue of a Gith killing an Illithid on, I think, 2 levels up. Doesn't exist. So I went ahead and drew that in stream and made it. And it kind of makes a difference. The party can go in and they can see exactly what you're describing. And I like that. But there's so many statues. If Here's the thing, I've spent 2 years, I think, maybe 18 months, mapping out all of Dungeon of the Mad Mage using Dungeon Draft. Doing that in between gaming and all the other stuff that I'll do when I'm on streaming. I mean, that was a huge commitment to get that done. And now, as I've evolved how I make my maps, I'm not happy with any of the Dungeon Draft maps. And so I'm going in and right now I'm using Photoshop. I was using Clip Studio Paint because I'll be honest, I really think the brush engine's superior in Clip Studio Paint. Um, yeah, the brush engine's superior. You can do things inside of that, but on I kind of I, I'll be honest, I really got pissed off when they announced the subscription model they're going to do. I mean, I've owned it since it was Manga Studio. I mean, I've had Clip Studio for years, and going to a subscription model like they are, it kind of pissed me off. And I already have a sub to Photoshop for other stuff, and I'm like, well, screw it. I'll just make the maps in Photoshop. I don't care. See, on this machine here, I have a perpetual license for EX, which is no longer going to be perpetual after this thing's done. On my Mac, I've got a Pro license on there, and I was going to get a Pro license on my because I just got a new iPad so I could work on assets and stuff while I'm sitting around watching TV with the wife. because I really don't like to get behind, even though I do. And I decided not to do that. So if for some reason, when CSP2 comes out, if for some reason I'm like, there's something on there that I have to have, um, then I might do an annual subscription just for Pro. I don't really need EX. I got that years ago for really cheap because I had Pro and then I got an upgrade license for like it was like $80 to go to EX. So it was worth it. I wouldn't pay 250 for it though because I don't use it. I don't use it for animation and stuff like that. And let's face it, that's the draw in my opinion of EX is being able to do unlimited frames for animation. But if I was going to do animation, I'd probably go back to what was that called? Another studio program. I mean, I used to use Photoshop professionally, but it was, I was using it for what Photoshop was made to be used for back in the day when I would do weddings, bridals and stuff like that, you know, spend all weekend shooting multiple events and then come home, set up actions that would do my basic setup on every picture that I shot, plus the second, third shooter that I had working for me. But I think the last time that I bought a license was CS7, which I think was the last time you could buy a license. Um, Now, I mean, what I pay is $9.99 a month, which isn't horrible. I just pay for the for Photoshop and Lightroom, and I'll never use Lightroom because I don't. I might use Lightroom. I end up using what the hell's that damn program? I have to look. My brain's not functioning this morning. Affinity Photo. I use that for a lot of stuff just because it's quick and easy, and I don't shoot professionally anymore. So, but for Photoshop, I pay the $9.99 a month, and that's not horrible. I mean, if I was going in for the entire suite, yeah, I mean that's something that bugs me too. But I end up using it a good bit, so I'll keep it. And my son, he has like a student license, which he uh he gets all that stuff for cheap. And if he stays with what he's doing, he might be able to have like an educational license forever since they'll kind of be working at an educational institution. All right, we missed a couple, did we? Let's take a look. He's got a few years. He's working on his PhD, so he'll be a student for a while. If he was, he plans to do research at the university level, but he could end up like working at a university, so he'll be that qualifies you for all that good stuff, those discounts. I think we got all the lights. I am in shock. It was only, what is it, 248 of them? Jeez Louise, that's a lot. All right, so we're going to merge this into a single layer. That's a lot. So let's hold down Shift, merge layers, and that's much better. I think I need to do that with these torches too. Let's do that. You know what I'm worried about? That I've got something in between those torches. All right, we don't. But yeah, this is one of the things that I kind of prefer using Photoshop, where it's so easy to grab a single item and just drag and drop. I haven't figured out if there's a way like to select this item here inside of Clip Studio without having the layer selected. So it always ends up messing with me, and let's put that there. Let's kill this folder. Just so we know what it is. That's all area 12 candles. Now let's light the torch. Let's light this candle, literally. All right, so I'm hoping we don't have to do any more of those ledges, but I'm betting we do. Now, let's see. I think these are my colors I used for that. Let's take a look. Oh, crap. Yeah, it is. I mean, the room I'm in, I used to use this. I had a easel there, an easel here that would handle 6-foot canvases. Back there, my drafting table for sketching and getting stuff ready. Yeah, this room used to just be all art stuff in here. And once I stopped doing like traditional media, and started moving over to digital, just meant that I had this room to do other stuff in, which is nice. I think I need to go here and here, since we don't like anything overlapping into these zones. Let's go ahead and do that. We're just going to have a little bit of light leak over there. Let's go across here. I'm just doing this because I don't want any of this purple light seeping out into the black. That black is basically the mountain itself. What I used to do when I used Dungeon Draft is I'd have like a background, and I'd pick like a, one of the stone backgrounds or something. It never looked good. Just my opinion, but it never really looked good. I'm sure there are people that really, dug the stuff that you could do in Dungeon Draft, and there still are. I mean, if I'm being honest, I used to love Dungeon Draft because I could make a map really quickly. But, there were the issues of not being able to, if you're just using all their stuff and you're not taking the time to create assets, you have no originality inside your maps. what I'll do, and I'll show you. There's an area where I've already done the lighting. That's what I'm getting ready to do here. Is create my light source, and then I'll do lighting inside of Foundry. One of my goals, and I tell you what, my goals, this has actually been made easier for me to be able to do that, is to do like you know, do a map release and also do a release where I have it set up with lighting, traps, everything inside of Foundry. Um, I didn't want to I didn't want to do it before because it was kind of a pain in the ass. There were multiple modules you had to download to make this stuff work. We're now with version 10 that I've got set up on a test server. I won't go live with it yet. Um, with version 10, you can do all that side inside of Foundry itself, which I find really attractive. So making sure I have everything selected. But like up here, see these rooms have like purple torches and the purple lighting up here. Um, and that's what we're getting ready to do down here, is set it up. And we've had multiple rooms where, random fog and stuff in there. This with the black energy beams going between these columns and this cloud that's in the center of the room. Correct. So I'm doing just the visual effect of what it looks like. I'll have a little brighter spot up next to the candle, and then a little more cast going out because these candles are just dim. I'm not going to extend it out more than like 8 feet probably. Um, Unlike the torches where I made those so it kind of covers the room. But we're still going with picking up our colors off of the areas that we did. So let's go ahead and set our brush. I think I'll use the soft round. I wish it would stop doing it up there on that screen instead of on the screen I'm actually working on. I think it's doing it to annoy me. All right, so for this, that's a little heavy. I think I did this at 80% on the others, so let's do that. Down to about 80. Close enough for government work. We'll do our cast. Yeah, once you mask it, you can control and make sure that it doesn't turn like the inside of your mountain purple. Which would, kind of be annoying. And like I said, I know that in theory, according to game rules, these would probably give off more light than I'm indicating, but I don't want to overwhelm the scene. And what I'll end up doing after I have this cast down and when I set it up inside of Foundry, is create the lights so they actually do go out as far as they're supposed to. But I really want this cast on the floor. Yep, pretty much. I'm really big on, creating a map where as I describe it, players can go, "Oh, I see that." Granted, a lot of things that you put in here, they're going to go rushing through the room. I'll spend so long. I mean, I spent a couple hours making the dead cultist with the bite holes and all that the vampires are sitting there eating in that room. And they aren't even going to spend half a second looking at him. Let's be honest. They'll go, "Oh, cool. Dead guy. Let's kill these vampires." I know my group. If only they knew the actual time spent doing this, to give them a map that's not black and white and sucks. Yeah, and that is one thing I am doing. I'm setting up the assets so that they can be distributed for inside a dungeon draft or just as PNG files that people will be able to use. Because I mean, once you have them set up as PNG files, then they can just be dropped, whether it's on Photoshop or Clip Studio or whatever. You can drop those things right in if you're making a map in one of those. Like I was saying, I was a lot more prolific making a ton more maps during COVID before I decided I needed to get my ass out of the house and get active again. Well, here's the thing. Like for this, I just give these everything away for free. Assets themselves, I mean, they don't own the idea of a chaise lounge or a guy getting eaten on it. So that stuff's mine. Same thing with any wooden assets, chairs, stuff like that. Those things are all mine. I can do what I want with it. A map like this, I'll give it away and distribute it so people have a decent map because Wizards maps suck. So what I make sure of is I'm not selling their IP content. But like I said, they don't own the idea of a wooden chair or a wooden table. So that's mine. However, I choose to design it. All right, so for this, I need to pick up this color. Let's go there. That's where I don't even know if I should even mention a name, but that's where um guys like Bailey Wiki, they cross that line, and it's kind of dangerous in my mind because like he went in and he named it, Fandelver town map. Um that's dangerous. Because wizards, they like to pretend they're all friendly and all, but when it comes to business, they're uh they're there to make money, not to generate revenue for Bailey Wiki on his Patreon. So yeah, that's like a cease and desist letter I'm trying to avoid. I mean, you can't blame them. You know, if you're taking something that's their IP and making money off of it and using the names and all that kind of stuff, then I can see them being pissed off. Because here's the thing, they, like most other businesses, do have stuff where you can set up licensing agreements and, license the content so that you can sell it. Where things start getting silly is when you think you don't have to do that and then, get bent out of shape because they do come after you. Yeah, I never mess with somebody's IP and I don't mess with the IRS. I pay my taxes and I don't do something that's going to cause me a lawsuit from somebody because of using their IP. And I'll tell you part of the reason that I'm really hardcore about that. When I used to shoot professionally, I'd have, you know, maybe a bride would put something up and then some jackass would crop it, take my watermark off, and claim that is their image and use it for advertising. And then I'd have to sue the bastard because I'd find it on the web or somebody bring it up to me. And, there are a lot of reasons I stopped shooting, between cheap bastards that didn't want to pay anymore and, all kinds of stuff. But it just became a hassle. I mean, I fully understand and respect IP. So, yeah, I'm not about to sell something that uses their IP. And that's where there are different map makers like Tom Cardos and stuff like that. I mean, they won't even touch, redoing some of these maps and giving them away for free, which I understand. But as long as you are, you can put stuff like this up as fan content and not get money for it, and you should be safe. It just doesn't make sense to put yourself at risk. Groka, thank you for the follow. It's greatly appreciated. Hope you're having an awesome day. And that's why you'll see, like, a lot of map makers, what they'll do is they'll just create their own map content. I tell you what, I was really furious because I was getting set up because I was planning to run and stream a game with Lost Mine of Phandelver. And I had about 100 hours in on my Phandelver maps. I had gotten to the town of Phandalin, and I had built those maps and started testing them inside of, and I wasn't complete. I would test as I would build. And I had Phandalin set up so that inside of Foundry you could use the levels module, go up steps and you go up on the second floor, you could go up on the roof in the towers, all this kind of stuff. Travel underground, it would seamlessly work inside of Foundry. And oh my god, 100 hours worth of work and something corrupted inside of Dungeon Draft and it became non-recoverable. I thought I recovered it and then I got in and it just crashed again. And I, the issue, I'm pretty sure the issue was that I use a lot of layers when I'm building stuff out, and those maps start getting huge. So I'm pretty sure there are memory leaks inside of Dungeon Draft that can cause a catastrophic error like that. And that's when, I lost my shit. I don't think I mapped for like a week or two I got on and just played games for like 2 weeks, and then I decided to flip over and start remapping inside of Clip Studio, and I still have to go back to that project because I still want to stream that and run the game. But yeah, I mean that's the key. Like I'll make a lot of this stuff at 300 ppi, and then I'll pull it down. The minimum you can make a map and have it run inside of Foundry is 100 ppi. Well, 50 ppi. I say 100 because if you're familiar with these Mad Mage maps, each of these squares of 4 are actually 10-foot squares, and that's all they show in the Mad Mage maps. And if you don't notice that, everything is, you start populating, and it's like, man, these rooms are awful small. And then you look down, oh, 1 square equals 10 feet. Oops. So, I'll make these Mad Mage maps at 100 ppi, um, and that's how I'll output them. This one, I think I'm doing at 150 ppi, and then I'll downscale it. I'll probably also output it at the 150 level, but this map is huge. Honestly, if I was smart, what I would do is break the map into quadrants and do it that way, and then using the levels module, have them like as they walk down a hallway, jump over to another quadrant. But you know, I like having one big map. That's my issue, I guess, because you do lose detail and stuff once you drop like a 300 ppi map down to 100 ppi. Like right now, the details all look nice. Once you drop it down, then you've got loss of detail. Nobody could load the thing. Yeah. Well, where I ran into issues, and I make, here's the thing, I own a Mac, I own an iPad, all that stuff, and I'll still give the Mac users a hard time because I'll be sitting there and telling them to try this, try that, and they're like, how do you do that? Um, as a PC user who's built PCs since you could build PCs, um, I always forget that some people go with something like a Mac. Here's the thing: what I like about Macs is they just freaking work, right? And for people that don't want to get into the technical aspect of having a computer, they're freaking awesome. And I'll be honest, if I do video editing or something like that for like my YouTube channel, I'll use the MacBook Pro because it does it quicker than this does. And I like the software on it. But what I found with my Mac users was anything over 8,192 pixels in either direction doesn't render any of these textures. So you spend all this time, and I was like, what do you mean you can't see what I'm describing? They're like, well, all I see is black and white and the walls. And I'm like, all right, take a screenshot and send it to me. And literally, all they saw was that. And then later they're like, oh yeah, every time I load up, it says something about 8,192 pixels, and I don't know what that means. So I just pulled it off. And I said, well, you should have said something because I'm building maps for all these next levels and you'll never be able to see them. So I need to work around that. Oh my God. My Mac users drive me crazy. But again, I understand they do appeal to a non tech population. I ended up getting my wife a MacBook Air just because it integrates with her iPhone and she can do her messaging and stuff on there. And she always fights new technology, but now she loves it. So she still has to use her PC that I got for work and other stuff. But I always she's out in the living room. She's got the MacBook on her lap. It's funny. Oh my god. Yeah, that's tough. So basically, when these lights turn out, they're going to see the cast on here from the purple light. The light will go out into the hallway. I'll have it come out about 10 feet. I just wanted this cast off of these to indicate where the brightest part of these really dim candles are. And I think I'm happy with the effect. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any because we want the brighter close light and then we want that going out. These it's more obvious. They're big torches that we made. They have to pump out a lot of light. These we're doing exactly as described. And I don't think we missed any. All right, now these hallways are a pain in the ass. Now I need let me pull up my did I close that? I bet I did. There are two pits. The one pit's going to be a real pain in the ass. I own Tailspire. I spent a good bit of time messing with that. I started to map out what was that adventure to see how it would look. I think I have the book over here. Is that it? Descent into Avernus. I started mapping out huge swaths of the city and stuff because you've got all these different places that you can go into. It was fun, but I don't know. I haven't messed with Tailspire probably in about 6 months now. I was waiting to see if they start getting integration so that it's actually playable, inside for a game. All right. So there's that. Let's take a look here. 12 C and D, I think are right. No, that's not it. Comes out here. This is C and D right here. So here we need see what they had. They kind of had the dice set up, and then there's actually I want to say it's a Chrome add-on that you can go in and link your D&D Beyond character in and play through that. Um, but yeah, Beyond 20. But the issue with that, in my mind, unless you really restrict player movement, players can just hop over walls and see everything that's around them. And I was not really pleased with the ways that, I mean, you could hide areas, but I wasn't super pleased with how that all worked. So, as a thing to build and mess around with right now, when I stopped using it, it was fun to mess with, but it was not something I was going to bring my group over to because I never tell my players, you need to buy something to play. And then what's the other? Dungeon Alchemist, where that kind of creates like 3D rooms. I bought that and messed with it. Um, I've got a few of them. I still always fall back to making 2D maps. My son keeps telling me I need to start messing with Unity because with Wizards now targeting what? End of 23, early 24, um, having their own virtual tabletop and stuff. He's like, you should start learning to map inside of there and get ahead of the curve. And I'm like, I'm sticking with Foundry. I mean, from their release, it looks like a video game, and that, I don't know. Thing is, like my big ass maps that I make, people can always print them out, throw them down on the table, and have a map for their players to play with their miniatures and stuff on. I still want to stick with doing 2D map creation because I think you're still going to have that large swath of people that want to use maps at a table. You're still going to have people like myself that I really prefer using something. Here's my concern with what Wizards is talking about. It's really going to it's going to probably have some serious system requirements for people to be able to use it. And it's possible that, like my Mac players, one's got a MacBook Pro that is from 2013, it might not be able to run anything that does it. Um, didn't want to read the player's handbook. Yeah, that's always a problem you run into. That's a problem created by the internet. And that started even before VTTs were big when people would put up builds for D&D and they'd have it all mapped out. You just have to build here, 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 all the way up to level 20. And players never learned anything about the game, the rules, or anything else. They knew everything about that character, but they really didn't know how that stuff operated. Um, and it created, it's not nice. It created stupid players. It created players that didn't really know anything about the game other than those power builds that they would look up on the web and use that. So they knew how to use that, but then you'd be like, well, this doesn't stack with this, or this doesn't really work. Because like with Pathfinder, they'd think you kept doubling up, and Pathfinder has rules that everything doesn't double every time that it stacks. It goes down to like 1.5 and lower multipliers for the damage. And then you'd have to sit down and be like, did you actually read the rules? No, I got this off the web. Well, that's why you're wrong, and go read the freaking rules. That's been a problem since before virtual tabletops. My my Here's where I use virtual tabletops at the table because I got really tired of. I would take a big rollout map, draw out like the combat that we're going to do, and just draw the rooms as we would go, and then you go to erase, and you come home with like blue hands, and that always pissed me off because the markers and all. There's no way around it. You're coming home with crap on your hands, and that annoys me. Um, so I started carrying a 30-inch monitor with me, and the players would still roll dice. They had their character stuff. I had them. They all had their books with them, but the map was on that monitor, and we would just move stuff, right? And for in-person play for that kind of stuff, virtual tabletops are awesome. I mean, I would love to get rid of my dining room table out front that's in the room that's basically a gaming room and build a table with like a 50-inch screen in it and then be able to project my maps onto there and just have the players move their miniatures. Just make life so much easier. Um, yeah, I've got a table out there that I hate that I have to get rid of, and then I'll build it. But oh my God, yeah, Pathfinder. I mean, I would build characters in that damn game stacked from like 15 sources to get what I wanted. And it was like a nightmare system. And let's face it, D&D is kind of getting that way. There's a reason that I like the player's handbook plus one rule. You know, you didn't have to ask a player if they're pulling stuff from all these splat books and they start doing something. You don't have to go, where did you get that from? You know, you knew that player was built on player's handbook plus Xanathars or player's handbook plus this. You knew where they were getting their stuff from. And even as a DM, I don't know every class and everything in there and every edition that comes out in every book because, to be honest, I don't necessarily care that much all the time. So I don't read the splat books. I buy them so that if I have a question when I see something, I can sit there, pop it open, or pop it open inside of D&D Beyond and go, okay, no problem. You know, or read the rules and be like, did you read this sentence that it doesn't work that way? Because they never read everything in there. It doesn't matter. They're gonna just be like, oh, it does this, but that last sentence says it doesn't do what you think it's doing, and that's players. They're always gonna game it as much as they can, but I really liked having that rule so that you always knew this character was built on this, and if something starts showing up that you knew was not in that book, you're like, you can't use that because Player's Handbook plus one. The group I run on Wednesday, I mean, they were built during Player's Handbook plus one, and that's what we've stuck to. And we're like 3.5 years in. So, you know, when they get to the end of this, then we'll talk about what we're going to do. I mean, we may go to Pathfinder 2 because, I don't know. I'm not a fan of some of the stuff I'm seeing with the one D&D that's coming out. You know, stripping DMs of crits because it might hurt players' feelings. You know, the hell with that. And stripping casters of crits on some of their spells, that's stupid. When I start new players, I always start player's handbook only. And I tell them I expect them to read the player's handbook, especially the sections where their race and class come from, but also on combat. So they're not sitting there saying, how do I do this? How do I do that? They need to learn the rules. And that's not a big deal. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. I here's the thing. I don't trust wizards. I was part of the playtesting in when 5e before it came out, and we gave a lot of input on stuff, and they got rid of a lot of stuff that was really good and gave us some really shitty stuff instead. I was pissed about that. I'm pissed about make your own race. I'm pissed about all this kind of stuff. You know, make your own half race and this. It Yeah, I mean, I love half elves. I love half orcs. Why not just have them and leave them alone? Don't be like pick and choose what you want from a race and make your own half race. I don't think genetics would work that way, but that's why I always figured half orcs always come out the same way. They probably have that dominant gene, and whoever they happen to breed with, who's probably unwilling to breed with them, those genes come out and they're dominant. But I mean, I do agree that when they started doing things like, which I'm gonna have to leave in about 4 or 5 minutes, I do agree on when they made changes to like the drow. I don't agree with making them not evil. They're evil motherfuckers. That's what makes the player characters special to come out that are not evil, and the characters in the lore that are not evil. That's what makes those individuals special. So they're breaking away from that horrible society. But I did agree when they changed it from them just being these pitch black evil creatures to, gray and, kind of getting away from that racism. You know what I mean? You really hate the use of drow. See, fortunately, I never read any of the Salvatore stuff, so that never influenced me. I would make drow characters once in a while because I wanted to. When people started talking about that, I'm like, I don't really care about that. I'm playing it because I want that race for this specific reason. And I've played. I mean, there are races I'll never play. I'll never play a gnome. There's some that I'll never play. And but I've played tons of races, and I don't do it to metagame. I'll do it because I'll be like, this is my concept for a character. Like I had a oh my god, who are those giant, like I said, my brain's not working. Those they're giants but they're not. Goliaths. I had a Goliath and I didn't turn him into a fighter. And using the stats, he was like the worst caster ever. But I made it so he was the runt. At like 7'9", he was too short to go to be a warrior, so they made him go to caster school. So he was a horrible caster with a lot of strength, and he was hilarious to play. I mean, he wasn't horrible. He was an effective character. I built him so he was effective, but he wasn't. I didn't min max that thing out. I thought he would be fun to play, and he was. And I worry about making a character that's fun to play. I used to min max the hell out of stuff, and I stopped just because it ruins the game for everybody at the table, in my personal opinion. So, then I started having a lot more fun making characters like that aren't maximized or optimized. They're just fun to play. They can do exactly what they need to do, but they're not maximized. So I didn't ruin anybody's fun. I wasn't one-shotting bosses. Everybody got to play and have fun. So that's that's my philosophy. I'm not a real fan of min maxers just because I've seen too much stupidity at the table where somebody one shots a boss, yeah, and everybody's like, well, that's very anticlimactic. So yeah, I mean, that's how we played when I started playing first edition back in the late 70s. You rolled your stats 3d6. There was no 4d6 drop one. We rolled straight stats, and you might end up with the most heinous thing ever on the planet, and you had to figure a way out how to play it. And those were some of the most fun characters I ever played because you really had to make stuff work. And those roles determined what you would end up being. Not, oh, I'm going to be this and I'm going to maximize this and this and this. Those roles determined what you played. And that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Oh, I've played DCC. I had a horrible min maxer at my table on one of our weekend games, and I got so pissed off one day, and the other players were really frustrated too. I said, "All right, that's the end of this campaign. Next week we're coming in. We're playing Dungeon Crawl Classics." He's like, "What do I roll?" I know, no, there's no rolling. I'll bring in a bunch of randomized characters. I'll send you something out to read for the rules, and this is what we'll do. He played one session and he flipped out and quit because he couldn't maximize the characters. And we had a great 6 months running through playing some campaigns in that and had a lot of fun. And then we moved over to something else. I mean, I've played and still am willing to play a lot of different stuff, and that really makes a difference. This guy, he just wanted to min max the fuck out of stuff in Pathfinder, and everybody got tired of it. And that was the way to fix it. Bring in DCC, give him four of those shitty characters to start with, and see what survives. It was awesome. That system is a lot of fun. All right, well, I have to go pick my daughter up, and then I'm going to go to the golf course and hit some balls and get outside for the day. Tomorrow, it's tomorrow Wednesday. I got all day to do whatever the hell I want. So tomorrow I'll probably be on. I have to look at my schedule. I'll be on after noon and run until and work on this map until 4 or 5 tomorrow afternoon. So I have something to do first thing in the morning, and then I'm good. I will enjoy playing with my balls. And thanks again for following. Hopefully we'll catch you next time. Always nice talking to our viewers. So everybody have a great rest of your day. I'll catch y'all tomorrow.